And so previously we had a more structured conversation around creating finances that feel good. That was aligning your finances with your core values, understanding what your core values are, establishing financial goals based on that. And during this conversation, it's kind of like a office hours type of format. There is not a formal presentation prepared, but it is an opportunity to ask me your finance questions. I'll give you a little more context about my background for those of you who might have missed the previous presentation. So my name is Tonya Rapley. I'm a certified financial educator. My specialties are budgeting, debt elimination, credit improvement. I don't consider myself an investing expert. I am familiar with investing, but I'm more so familiar with strategies for you to improve your day-to-day finances so that you can begin growing your money and achieving your financial goals. So I'm here to answer any questions that you all may have. If I do not have the answer, I am very honest about not having the answer. And I most likely know a resource that can point you in the right direction for something that would make sense for you. But there's no, question that is stupid. One of the things that I find is that a lot of times when I do the more structured presentations, people come to it with their own questions that they have in mind or things that they would like answered. So we created this session just so that you could ask your questions, your pressing financial questions that you might not have been able to ask in the last session, or that it might have come up now that we're in a new year, new dynamic, and there's so many things changing. So you can put your questions in the chat, or you can unmute if you're feeling the need. We have 18 people here, so hopefully there's a question among us. What do we do with our stock market accounts? I guess you're asking, Kelly, because of the volatility that we've been seeing and the past couple of days, particularly this past Friday and weekend. So the stock market is risky, by that is one of the things. You earn higher returns in the stock market because you are there's a greater risk associated with having the money there. But I would highly recommend not to touch it, because right now, if you touch the money or take your money out the market, you're going to take it out probably at a lower price than you purchase it at. And I always say you don't lose money in the stock market until you take your money out of it. So I would say that what you should do is ride it out. Leave the money there, write it out, because the stock market operates in cycles. And so this cycle likely will return back to its norm. Now, that's not to say there aren't some industries that are going to be heavily impacted by the recent political events. But we can't foresee the true magnitude of those impacts, or if it's going to be a short-term impact and they're going to rebound immediately. But I would say right now, do not react quickly. Just leave your money there and let it ride the market out, because most likely it will return. One of these things about this administration, they are very business minded, and so I would say leave the money in there, let it ride out the market. I don't even look at my portfolio during times like this, because as I say, you do not lose money in the stock market until you take it out at a loss. And right now, most people will find, while we have seen some rebounding in the past day, most people will still find themselves at a loss. What is the benefit of a 401k? There's pre-tax IRAs and post-tax Roth and traditional. So, I mean, ideally, you're going to want to take advantage of the pre-tax money so that you're not paying taxes on the money that you're going to contribute to your retirement fund. So that's why we encourage that you max out that first, because there's no point in paying taxes on it before you pull the money out and then having to pay taxes down the line. So the pre-tax is going to allow you to avoid having the taxes taken out of that money. It could also reduce your tax liability for your paycheck and so forth. For some people, they're able to use it as a strategy for reducing their shifting their tax bracket. So you're able to, if you contribute a certain amount to your retirement plan, then you're able to kind of adjust your tax bracket as a result of that, as a result of the income that you're actually receiving. But the benefit of a 401k is not only the tax benefits, but also that it's usually automatic. There's no additional step that is required. And so most of the time we recommend that people start with that 401k, because they are going to be able to, the convenience associated with it and the tax benefits associated with it. But when you're looking at outside of 401k, or if you don't have option to that, you're going to want to go with our Roth IRA first and then the traditional IRA. And I'm just scrolling to make sure I think I scrolled past a little bit this question. Um, what are the most common pitfalls, most common financial pitfalls that professional women, particularly lawyers, encounter, and how can they avoid them? You know, what I would want to caution against is thinking that women from particular professions, academic levels, or success rates are immune to like the common financial pitfalls of individuals who might not be within the same bracket. You know, at the end of the day, we are all individuals trying to make the best financial goals with the best information that we have. And, you know, achieving a certain level of education doesn't necessarily mean we've achieved it across the board, like in financial literacy, for example. And so I would say one of the common financial pitfalls, one is not managing their own money, or believing that because they are a woman that they are kind of at a handicap when it comes to managing money. What we found when it comes to investing statistics is that women actually are better investors than men, because we're not as we're a little slightly more risk adverse than men. And so I would say one of the common financial pitfalls would be not trusting yourself to manage your own money and not educating yourself to manage your own money. Another one that we see across the board, and not just with women, is assuming that you have time. You know, I have a lot of clients that I have coached who have gotten to retirement age, but didn't begin planning for retirement until later in life, and they wish they would have started early. And if you can start later, the only thing about starting later is that you're going to be playing catch up, and so you won't have that compound interest working in your favor as you did in the younger years. And so I would also say just getting started, just doing, teaching yourself, willing to learn. That is a common pitfall. And then I would say across when it comes to professions in particular, sometimes, you know, that phrase like counting your eggs before they hatch, you know, one of the things I think we've seen in the past couple of weeks is that even stable industries or previously perceived stable jobs and roles are also at risk. And a lot of people don't financially prepare for downturns, emergencies, or significant shifts in their lives. So I would say, you know, we get comfortable, we assume that something is always a given, especially when we have a good career, instead of continuing to plan and understanding that things can happen to us just like they can happen to anybody else. So I would say those are the two pitfalls: is not preparing for the financial future, it related to saving and building your savings, and then also taking control of your own finances, learning financial, not, I won't say financial literacy, usually it's investing. So learning about investing for yourself, not just trusting what people say. And, you know, there are financial advisors. I have a financial advisor that I do trust, but I still look at my statements and ask him questions and question why certain choices were made, or require that he call me and ask me before making any significant shifts in my portfolio. And I think that as women, we kind of have had a tendency to turn our financial outcomes over to other people without having our hand in them and paying attention to them. What is the best way to find a trustworthy financial advisor? So there's a few ways that you could find a financial advisor. One could be through your primary banking institution. A lot of banking institutions have financial advisors or wealth advisors or financial planners. There are also, you know, there's the Fidelities, the Edward Jones, that you could go into a standalone location and ask to speak to someone. I found my financial advisor asking for a referral. But you can also go to the certifying body, like the body that certifies financial professionals, the CFPs. Go to that board, and you can, if you go to their website, they have a locator, and you can also find people who are certified through the CFP board to get to connect with them for their services. So there's a few ways you can find them. Referrals. Even if you get a referral, I say do your homework. You know, make sure this person is certified. Have a few conversations. Make sure that their ideology aligns with yours. Make sure they align with you, because financial advisors are not one size fits all, and financial advisors are not, you know, there is no lack of financial advisors out there. So if one doesn't work for you, another could. And so shop around, just like you would shop around for an accountant, just like you would shop around for a babysitter for your kids, just like you would shop around for a real estate agent, shop around for your financial advisor. Don't necessarily go with the person who is initially presented to you. Make sure that you share similar ideologies and that they understand what you are trying to accomplish. Scrolling down, my screen tends to scroll a little quick, so I just want to make sure I'm not scrolling too fast. Hi, Madison. Okay, I think I scrolled down too fast. Okay. The next question is, any tips for recent school grads who have school debt, would like to save for retirement, or are interested in purchasing a home in the next few years? What should we tackle first? Okay. So I think I always recommend saving for retirement as well as saving for purchasing a home. Those are going to be things that you are going to need the immediate capital. Well, you're going to need the immediate capital for purchasing home. When it comes to paying on if you have student loan debt, you can buy a home with student loan debt, but you do want to have manageable payments. So I would say get to a place where you have manageable payments when it comes to your student loans, and be actively repaying those, or if you need to get a deferment or a forbearance of some sort, work that out, but make sure that you are communicating with your servicers. And then with saving for retirement, I mean, even if it's a small amount, even if it's 1-2% of your salary, I think that you should always be saving for retirement, because as I mentioned, that compound interest is going to make a significant difference, specifically for those who are recent law school grads. So I would say definitely make sure that you're contributing something to that retirement, and then set up I call it an inconvenient savings fund. So that would be at a banking institution that is not connected to your primary institution, usually an online bank. I know CIT Bank has really good, they have pretty good interest rates right now, or an American Express savings or something like that. Put it in an inconvenient savings account and be actively contributing to money to that as well for your down payment. I would say make sure you have a good understanding of your monthly overhead and your income first, and then based on that, do what you can. If you can really, if you can max out on your retirement and still hit those other financial goals, do so. But I would say figure out what makes the most sense as far as spreading those things around, but also don't use not having enough to prevent you from doing something. Like I said, 1% when it comes to saving for retirement, it is something, and you are still able to collect that interest. Saving for a home, you definitely want to make sure that you're putting aside to save for your down payment, your closing cost, the earnest money, and everything else that is required to purchase a home. So when it comes to tackling first, I don't really think there's necessarily a first. I would say if we're going to look at what needs to be done, making sure that you're in a good place with your student loan repayment and having repayment option that works for you. But then immediately after, you want to make sure that you're contributing to that 401k and that you have that inconvenient savings account set up. So I would say they're kind of done in tandem, or they're done like, dominoes. Once you knock one down, you immediately work on the next one. If your mortgage is almost paid off, is it foolish to buy a new house and take on a big mortgage again if you are 50? I mean, that is a question that is based on your individual preferences and what's important to you and your values. To be honest, from a financial perspective, it depends on what the rest of your financial portfolio looks like. If you have a debt minimal life, like you don't have a lot of debt, you have adequate savings in retirement, then I would say get the house that you want in retirement, or get the house that you want as you approach retirement, if you are in your 50s and moving towards making decisions about what do I want to do as I start to look at what my retirement looks like. But I would say most people tend to downsize. So if you had a larger home, most people tend to downsize, like if their children have left their home and everything else. But I say live where you want. As long as it's not a financial stressor for you. And the way that it wouldn't be a financial stressor for you is that you have a debt minimal life and you have adequate money in savings and investing. Now, if you do not have those things set up, then I would not recommend it. I wouldn't say that it is foolish, I would say that I do not recommend it until you are able to pay down debt. But the thing about, if your mortgage is almost paid off, if you were to sell that house, you could use some of the proceeds from that to pay off all your debt and everything else. And now what you're really focused on is that mortgage. So it really does depend on your individual comfort and your individual needs and what retirement looks like for you. Some people want a house where the entire family can come and they can host them. Other people are like, I just want to downsize and I just need space for me and my partner, or me and my pet, or me and friends to come visit every now and again. So it really does depend on where you are. But I would say before taking on that big mortgage, make sure that all of your other financial houses are in good standing, or even, that you've eliminated as much debt as possible. And also, before you take on that big mortgage, I would say you want to be mindful of the additional cost of ownership for that home, right? So it's not just going to be the mortgage that is going to be larger. It's going to be your electricity bill that's going to be larger. It's going to be your water bill that's likely going to be larger. It could be your landscape bills could be larger. So there are other things to keep it taken into consideration with that too. Your property tax. So there are things to take into consideration with that too, and it's not just the mortgage. And if you will want to if this is the house that you want to retire in and that you want to age in, then you have to ask yourself, am I going to be able to maintain this house, this big mortgage, this home, in those years? I maxed out my 401k and contribute to my child's education fund. I have student loans, house payment, car payments. What should I focus on paying down next? So you max out your 401k, you contribute to your child's education fund. So you have a car payment, you have a mortgage, and you have student loans. So I mean, but if we look at it from the snowball method, which is, paying off the smallest debt first, I would say the two of those are going to be either your student loans or your car payment, your student loans or your auto loan. That house payment, that usually comes last. But what you would do if you use a snowball method, after you pay off your auto loan, you can use that additional money to begin to pay extra on your student loans. And then after you pay off your student loans, you can use that additional money to pay off your house, your mortgage. So I would say, if we were going to look at what to do next, pay off the car payment first, then focus aggressively on eliminating the student loans, and then the mortgage. I hope that helps, Brett. And sorry if I'm just kind of moving through these questions. There's quite a few, so I want to make sure that we get them, that I get to answer them. So sometimes I kind of lock in when I'm answering questions, but I hope that these answers are helpful for you. In what order would you advise using extra money, debt, savings, or investing? I just finished first year solo and have some profit. Congratulations. I set aside 6 months of business expenses, trying to decide what to do with the balance. I would say with that balance, okay, so you have 6 months of business expenses set aside. If you have not been investing or planning for, I don't want to say, make the assumption that you haven't been saving for retirement. But if you have not been saving for retirement, I'm big on making sure that you get started on saving for retirement and then focusing on debt. I don't think that you have to do one or the other when it comes to investing or debt. It sounds like you have, like you said, you have some profit. So I would say, now it depends on how much debt you have. If you have a significant amount of debt, like consumer debt, such as credit cards or something like that, then I'd say you might want to go ahead and pay those credit cards off. But then also with investing, I always say, like, put something aside, even if it's like $1,000, even if it's whatever excess you have, I would say split it and maybe use like 80% for within that profit, maybe use 60% towards debt, 20% additional towards savings, and then 20% of that towards investing. You can break down those numbers the way you see fit, but I would say that you can contribute to all of them, just not at the same amount. So you would have to decide which one is the next category where I'm kind of behind at, and put extra emphasis on that category where you are behind, and then maybe smaller emphasis on the category where you're more up to speed. What are some easy to implement savings tips, especially to avoid less mindful purchases? Katie, that's a great question. That's definitely in my wheelhouse. One of the things that I typically ask myself before I make a purchase is, do I need it? What happens if I don't buy it? And do I already own something similar to it? A lot of people do implement the like 24-hour policy where it's like I'll walk away from it and like give myself like a cooling off period to decide if I really want it. I do that with my Amazon cart. Sometimes I implement like a 48-hour cooling off period and I'll come back. I'm like, did I really want this or no? And then I end up deleting stuff or I end up, purchasing what's in the cart. So I would say you want to create more friction in your buying process. And to create that friction in your buying process, that does look like asking those questions. Do I really need this? What happens if I do not buy this? And do I already own something similar or something that could help me achieve a similar outcome? And then after that, if you say yes, then the other question to ask yourself is like, okay, let me wait 48 hours to purchase this thing. And a lot of times we'll forget about it. And if we forgot about it, we didn't need it in the first place. And so it's just really curbing that initial impulse and reminding yourself, like, just because I can doesn't mean I should. Just because I can make this purchase doesn't mean it's the best purchase for me to make right now. Next question. I'm retired from my paid work along with government pension, a good 457 plan. I intend to use some of these funds to travel more this year. I haven't withdrawn the funds yet. Failure to predict this exact situation. Thoughts on waiting to use these funds? Hi, Tammy. Thoughts on waiting to use these funds? Sorry, I'm just going. I got moved around with this question, so just going back to this question. Hi, Tammy.
Hi, sorry I'm late. Hearing ran late.
No problem. No problem. If you want to say hello, you can. I'm in the middle of reading a question that's a little, I just want to make sure that my screen is a little smaller, my window is smaller, so I just want to read this question all in one swap.
It's okay. Thanks everyone for joining. I hear it's been going great. I was getting updates while I
Oh,
was
wonderful.
in my meeting, in my hearing.
Wonderful. And this gives me time to drink some water. So take that water break. Okay, so I'm retired from paid work. I intend to use some funds for these plans to travel more this year. I haven't withdrawn the funds yet. Thoughts on waiting to use those funds for international trip or going ahead and withdrawing some before it falls further? Um, I would say that I don't want you to think about withdrawing the funds before it falls further. Because if you take the funds out now, you stop the money from any potential upswings. And so I would say that shouldn't be part of your decision necessarily, like trying to beat the market, because unless you're a financial professional, you're going to have a hard time trying to beat that market. So you have to decide, is this worth it for me? Now, when it comes to from your IRA, so I'm assuming you are retirement age, Emily. Are you retirement age so you will not be penalized for these withdrawals? Yes. Okay. All right. Perfect. Um, I would say don't try to time the withdrawal necessarily. If you want to take those trips, then I would say look at the cost of the trips and look at actually I think what you do have in your control is the cost of of travel. So if you think that it's going to be more cost effective to purchase your travel now versus if you wait until later, then I would say go ahead and purchase the travel now instead of waiting until later. But when it comes down to trying to time the withdrawal with the market, I would just say it's really hard to tell, and I wouldn't base it on that. I would base it on, is it more affordable now to book this trip, or do prices typically fall closer to the trip date? And then make your decision based on that. And congratulations to you on retirement. Where do you plan to go on your travel to? I'm just curious. You're welcome. Where you plan to go? And you're welcome, Katie and Britt. I'm happy that this was helpful for you. Oh, wonderful, Emily. Paris, Ireland, and Scotland. Okay, yeah. So what I would want you to think about, like, those are summer. I don't know if you're planning to go in a couple of months, but the summer is a lot more expensive. So I would say that your most costly thing would actually be um not getting ahead while it's more affordable to plan that journey. Yeah, so definitely get ahead. Because I was actually just looking at tickets to Paris recently. Go ahead and get ahead of that. Paris in the summer is expensive. Ireland and Scotland in the summer is expensive. So I would say go ahead. You do better now going ahead and getting, not worried about the market or necessarily, but just going ahead and planning that travel now. what key financial strategies should women lawyers implement to build wealth despite challenges or income variability, work-life balance? Yeah, so I mean, income variability is a significant challenge when it comes to building wealth, because sometimes you find yourself just catching up instead of using your money towards your financial goals. You're not sure when you're going to be able to contribute to them. I would say when it comes to income variability, the first thing that's going to be important is making sure you have that adequate savings, because any financial plan will fall through if you don't have adequate savings. But I will say it is important to be investing and growing that money and having the money in accounts that are growing aggressively or more aggressively than they would in a bank account, because now you are able to earn interest on that and you're able to cash in on those investments or able to cash in on that savings if you were to need it. So I would say the first thing is making sure you have your financial needs covered. And then when you receive a large payment or large sum or something like that, make sure you are putting a certain amount aside for investing and for your savings, because that is going to help you in the times when there could be a downward trend when it comes to your finances or your clients, or repayments or payments are slow coming in. You'll have that there. And as someone who I recently went back to the workforce after 9 years of entrepreneurship, because I realized that I wanted to achieve some additional financial goals that were made challenging with income variability. So I made the decision to go back into a role that I felt resonated with me and the experience that I had gotten in my business. And it was one of the best decisions that I could have made, but I also made the decision after divorce. And so it was the best decision for me because I became a single income household. And so I'm still able to operate my business as I'm here today. I'm still able to operate my business while being fully employed. And I look at it as now I'm essentially a two-income household again, but that did help bring some stability. And now I'm able to use my business income towards my financial goals and to build wealth. But I use my 9 to 5 income to cover my needs and everything else for my household. So I hope that helps. Just to state it, just to put it in a snapshot: cover your bases, take the excess, save and invest, and review your circumstances, review what makes sense, keep an eye out for roles if you're interested, or opportunities that would allow you to bring in additional income or help stabilize your income a little bit more, and then go for it if it makes sense for you. How can women lawyers effectively negotiate salary increases or set competitive rate for their legal services to enhance financial stability? Honestly, I would say one of the best ways is having conversations. I think that a lot of times we are not having conversations with our peers about what their salaries are. So we have no idea what to expect. We have no idea what's working. We have no idea what people are able to ask for or negotiate. And just because someone is in a different state or a different market from yours doesn't mean that they don't have valuable insight. So what's been most beneficial, I know for me in my career, is having open conversations. Hey, this opportunity came up. This is what they're looking to compensate me. I'm a little on the fence. I don't know if it makes sense. And just being candid with people that you trust. When it comes to setting competitive rates, it's the same thing. It really is about leaning in on your community and having conversations. And so if you do not have like peers that you trust, then I would say that is going to be one of the most effective strategies, is developing a network of peers that you trust or a mentor that you trust that you can bounce negotiation ideas against, or, ask questions about salary or compensation that you're considering, so that they can help you level set. Nobody can help you level set like your peers or people who are in your industry. So use that as a level playing field. I know we have AI and we can search online and everything else, but nothing beats talking to the people who are on the ground doing the work. And even more so, if you can establish like a friendship with someone who works in the HR capacity, even better. So I would say that is helpful. When it comes to negotiating your salary increase, make sure that quarterly, I know on my calendar, quarterly, I have a reminder to go in and update what I accomplished for that quarter. So I keep a running track record of what I've accomplished, because sometimes we forget what we've done because we're existing in such fast-paced occupations and lives, and we have everything else that's demanding for us. I literally carve out time to sit down and update I have a document in my Google Drive that's literally called Tanya's Accomplishments. And I go in there and update that document regularly so that when it is time for a salary increase, I know what I brought to the organization, or I know what I brought to my role, and I can lean on that and justify my ask if it is questioned. Sometimes it's not even questioned. So I would say that would be a strategy to use. What advice do you have for women lawyers who are considering transitioning from traditional legal practice to entrepreneur consulting roles, or financially speaking? Consulting roles, financially speaking. I would say that you do talk to others. I would say the first thing is definitely talking to others who are currently doing that, finding out the pros and the cons, what they wish they would have known, what they would have done differently. Have those I call them informational interviews. Have informational interviews with people. If you feel that people in your local like people who are located in like your particular service area might not be helpful to you, then talk to someone else who's located, in another state, or somewhere else. So I would say make sure that you're talking to people who are doing it. And then on a personal level, pay down as much debt as possible. Really get your debt into a good place, reduce your liabilities, and increase your savings. When I was looking at leaving my 9-to-5 job back in 2015, starting in 2013, I opened up a bank account that was literally called my Quit Fund. And when I would put money in there, I was like, okay, this is going into my Quit Fund. This is going into my time freedom fund. And so make sure that you are minimizing liabilities, increasing your savings, and then having those conversations with others. And I would say consulting, keep both roles as long as you can. Like sometimes as long as the employer is okay with it, you can consult on the side. Keep that and make sure that you are testing your concept, testing your ability to bring in clients, because nothing kills a business and a dream like failing to prepare for that business and a dream, and now you need it to feed you and be your sole source of income. Now there's immense pressure on your business and your dream to be your sole source of income, and you haven't taken the time to properly vet the idea, to vet your approach or your marketing techniques. So give yourself time, do two for as long as you can. And then if you have to, or, sometimes you don't have that choice, you just got to jump into it. If you got to jump into it, still talk to others about what they wish they would have done differently. What are some investment strategies that are particularly suited to busy professionals with demanding careers? Simple ones. I would say, one of like mutual funds and ETFs are really good. I would say mutual funds even better, because mutual funds, you literally buy a bucket of investments that are all bundled together, and you don't have to manage them as closely as you would with individual stocks. And so I would say if you have a demanding career, most likely your mental bandwidth is occupied with your career, and you don't have time to watch Bloomberg or read the financial reports or anything like that. So I would say mutual funds would be a good place to start, where you're just putting your money. You could buy, like, I know Fidelity has a really solid platform where you can invest in mutual funds there. You literally contribute money to it as frequently as you want, or one time. For those who have unstable income, maybe it's like when you get a large windfall, you put a specific amount into that Fidelity account, and then you can put it into a mutual fund. And mutual funds tend to have a more diversified portfolio, so they're not as risky, and you're not going to see as many take on as many risks as you would with purchasing individual stocks. If you have a demanding career, I would not recommend getting into trading individual stocks or trying to trade. Buying and holding is going to be your best friend, because it's going to allow you to just let your money work, let the market work, and just move accordingly. So that's what I would recommend: mutual funds, and make it as simple as possible. And if you want to pay a financial advisor, pay a financial advisor. That's also going to make it easier, is allow someone else to manage your money for you. So if you want to self-manage, mutual funds. But if you are willing to have the support of a financial advisor, then that's definitely going to be easy for people who have demanding careers. What's the easiest thing all of us can do today to set up for future financial success? Ooh, that's a big question. I would say minimize liabilities. Minimize liabilities is I wouldn't say it's the easiest thing, but it's the most important thing. Because liabilities are competing for your money and competing against your ideal outcome. The more liabilities you have, the more you have that's taking away from you growing your money or using your money towards a way that supports your financial future. So I would say the most important thing is going to be to minimize your liabilities. The easiest thing is to become familiar with money. And familiar with how money works. And so that usually is reading books, listening to podcasts on your drive, or something like that. So making yourself more familiar with certain financial literacy principles or what you're interested in at the time. Like if you're interested in real estate investing, listen to podcasts on real estate investing. If you're interested in getting started in the stock market, listen to podcasts on getting started in the stock market. There are literally thousands, if not million, not up to a million more podcasts available. So I'd say the easiest thing is to increase your financial literacy. The most important thing is to reduce your liabilities. What are some red flags to watch out for when working with financial advisors, wealth managers, especially for women who may be new to investing? Um, hmm. I would say it's someone who doesn't respect you or your limits or your wishes. I think that there's people who can offer advice and they might have a different perspective for you than you, but they need to respect your perspective, respect your ability, and really be willing to have it's like it's still your money that they're managing. It is not their money. And so if they treat your money like their money and they're not talking to you and having conversations with you, then that is a red flag. I would say another red flag is something simple could be email addresses. They need to be connected to a brokerage of some sort. If they are emailing you from a Gmail or something like that, then that is a red flag. They need to be connected to a brokerage. I would say another red flag can be do your reviews, like review online to find out if there's been any Better Business Bureau actions taken against them or if there's any complaints or anything like that. But I would definitely say not respecting your desires or your ability. When I got started with my financial advisor, I only had $500. I was working at a nonprofit in New York City. I only had $500 to get started, and he handled me with the same care that he would have handled someone with $500,000. And he answered all of my questions and respected that's where I was, and I was just getting started and not make me feel bad about it. And James has been my financial advisor going on 20 years now. No, 10, 15 years. I was like, oh my God, 20. It's going on 13 to 15 years. 12, because I started working with him in 2013. So we're going on a 12-year relationship. And regardless of where my life is, he never makes me feel bad. When I went through my divorce and had to sell some things and everything else, and I was like, James, like this is where I'm at. I'm gonna have to pause my contributions while things get stable. He was like, look, that happens to a lot of my clients. He helped normalize my situation instead of making me feel bad about it. And that makes me so much more comfortable talking to him. So I would say another red flag is if you don't feel comfortable talking to them because they are going to do life with you. James has bought a house with me. James has watched witnessed my son being born, being added to my life. James has witnessed business downturns. He's witnessed so many things. And so they are going to do life with you. So if you do not feel comfortable talking to them and you would not have a friendship with them or a relationship with them, I would say that's a red flag too. Britt, you are so welcome. You're so welcome. And you might be gone now. So I'm really passionate about women having financial advisors that work for them. Some people prefer to work with, people who are the same gender. I ended up working with mine because he came highly recommended by other people who were financial educators. And he's been great. I'm really happy with that relationship. And so recommendations can be one of the strong places to find one, but I still did my research. Even though he was recommended, I still did my research. There are going to be people who you're not going to be able to find online because they just don't operate their business that way. They might be referral based. There are some companies that I'd say look out for. There's the tried and true financial institutions. There's that I would not be worried about if they're connected to a Prudential or a Northwestern Mutual or a Mass Mutual or a Fidelity, Edward Jones, Morgan Stanley. They're connected with them. They're pretty much good to go when it comes to a legitimacy standpoint. You just also still want to make sure that it's a personality fit and that they respect what your goals are and that they have the knowledge to properly manage your portfolio. Wow. Well, we
That was
started
a
out
lot just
slow.
since I got on here. I can't imagine what was happening before. My
Yes,
gosh.
this y'all. I'm so thankful that you all are using this time because everyone doesn't. So I'm glad you're using this time. Myra says, been there a few advisors and my current one came highly recommended to me and gave me the same percentage commission. Wonderful. Yeah. Now that is a thing to think about when it comes to financial advisor versus self-directed or managing your own portfolio. Financial advisors are going to charge a percentage. Like they do charge a percentage sometimes of transactions or sometimes of quarterly based on the portfolio. But I look at it as like I'm literally not paying you every month. I'm not paying you every quarter. You make money when I make money. You make money off of my transactions. So as long as I don't see any excessive transactions, and I can ask because sometimes it's like, okay, you sold that and you purchased this. What's going on? Let's talk about it. As long as I don't see any excessive ones, it makes sense. So I think that is important to remember that they deserve to be compensated as well for your portfolio. And so there would be a commission that is charged to them or that they are able to earn as a result of your portfolio performance. May not be a wheelhouse acquiring insurance in addition to what benefits may be with an employer, umbrella policy, life insurance, long-term care. So actually, Katie, I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessarily my wheelhouse, but I can speak to external insurance outside of an employer, and I do highly recommend it. I don't recommend to solely depend on employer life insurance, long-term care policies, short-term care policies, because unless there is a rider or an agreement that they are going to cover your expenses or to continue to offer that policy to you if you are no longer employed to them, what happens is once you leave, like that the policy is terminated. And so the best way to protect against that is to have your own policy outside and independent of your employer. And so while my job offers life insurance, I have two life insurance policies outside of my job. I do have short-term disability through my job, but I also have short-term disability outside of my job too. So I would say it's in your best interest to have one outside. You don't have to have everything outside of your job, but definitely I recommend life insurance. I highly, highly, highly recommend having a life insurance policy outside of your employer.
And I'm going to jump in right here regarding long-term care. So a couple things to look for. Make sure that it's federally tax qualified. That's a big one. And also make sure that it covers cognitive impairment, which is generally what people need long-term insurance for, long-term care for, but it's not always covered. So if you are looking into that, make sure you're looking for those two things and also that there's that it's state partnership qualified. So it'll be dollar for dollar protection regarding like Medicaid spin down, things like that, if that's an issue that you're looking for. And just as a typical like practical thing, I usually tell people if you get it too soon, you're wasting your money. If you get it too late, then you're spending too much. But generally the sweet spot is between 60 and 65, which is what I've found. But also know if you know your family history, that's helpful. Because what can happen, so like maybe Alzheimer's or dementia runs in your family and it starts pretty young, then this is something you're probably going to need to plan for a little sooner. If that's not generally something that you're worried about, then, again, you can probably use that 60 to 65 range. But some people will say 55 to 60, but it's really just important to kind of know there.
Thank you for chiming in on that, Tammy.
Yeah.
These are excellent questions. You all have asked excellent questions. Do we have any more?
Any other questions? All right. Well, we
This
can
has
go
been
ahead.
great, but what I will do is I'm going to drop my email address
Wonderful. Thank
in the
you.
comments. I'm going to drop my email address in the chat. Wait, I think it's internal. Let me go to.
I think
Is
that
everyone is everyone
went
able
to
to?
host and panelist. Oh yeah, that didn't go to
Yeah,
everyone.
it's not allowing me to
I'll fix it
Selecting.
really quickly.
Okay, thank you. Hey, Amy, yes, I still operate my own business, but in a reduced capacity. So right now I am an adjunct instructor at City University of New York, launching their financial literacy certificate program. We're finishing the first cohort what Thursday. I don't know if today was Tuesday or Wednesday, finishing the first cohort on Thursday there. So that is something that I'm doing with through my business, and then also working with associations, ERGs with speaking engagement. So I've done it, I'm doing it in a reduced capacity. And I've taken a few coaching clients, but mainly in like entrepreneurship. So I've definitely enjoyed the additional money. As I mentioned, when I started my 9 to 5 job, I was like, okay, I'm a 2 income household now. Well, now that I'm, post divorce, I'm able to reduce that revenue stream that was lost and through the divorce. And so it's been wonderful. I'm really thankful that I'm able to operate them, and was very upfront with my employer about it, so that if I have to take time off and everything else, I'm not sneaking or anything. They know what I have going on.
Awesome that you're able to do that.
I know, but it's now I'm still working on the balance. I am still working on the balance.
That's a
Um,
whole other webinar.
ask me about the balance and at the end of the year, because right now I'm still figuring out what that looks like. But I'm also very, very thankful, and I try to get sleep when it makes sense when I can. So
Get it in where it fits in. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this episode of On the Mic. And thank you so much. We're so grateful to you, Tonya, for sharing your wisdom and knowledge and passion. Um, be sure to follow Tonya on social media. Let's see.
and
And
I'm
we
not on
can
social
have
media right
that.
now.
Oh, not on social media.
But I will share my LinkedIn.
Perfect.
I'm on LinkedIn, and I would love to connect with anybody on LinkedIn. So I will send my LinkedIn for you to distribute. That's where I spend most of my time. If I am on any type of platform. And so I will drop that there, and would love to connect with your members. I know that I can't share with everybody else, so
Oh,
I
we'll get
dropped
it
it in
shared.
there. Yes, please connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you so much, Tammy, for bringing me back. And thank you all for your time. This has been great. Bye,
All
everyone.
right. Thank
Oh,
you.
I didn't know
Y'all
we were
take
shutting
care.
off.
I froze. Make sure to subscribe to On the Mic also so you get all of the information for the upcoming ones in the series. Thank you so much.